I love talking with passionate business owners. Their enthusiasm is irresistible, their knowledge is invaluable, and their wisdom holds the keys to transforming your passion into a successful business. As a marketing strategist, I help people around the world innovate and grow their business. I'm Jay Hamilton Roth, and this is Business with Passion. Today's episode features guests whose musical success enhances the lives of everyone that hears it. For many years, Kenny White wrote and produced hundreds of commercials for TV and radio in New York. After being hailed by reviewers, Kenny chose to devote himself to making albums and hitting the road. Since 2001, he has released 6 albums and toured worldwide to sold-out venues.
I came to this late. I was on the other side of the glass for a long time, and producing, session player, and I never connected with an audience the way I do now.
Where was I yesterday?
I thought I liked playing before as the center of attention, but I never really did in retrospect. It's much more about the material now, and a lot less about me singing the material, and so it's really freed up a big part of me. My passion is to keep doing it as long as I can lift the keyboard, and as long as people will have me. I started late, you know. I just I'm behind the 8 ball, you know, as far as getting people to pay attention. So it's a struggle, but a worthy one, I feel. Touring, I love the hour on stage or whatever it is. I don't love the other 22, 23 hours. I do love getting to play in front of different people. I don't like collaborating. It's not that I don't like it. I'm not very good at it. It's hard for me to say when I don't like an idea and just be brutally honest about it, and it's hard for me to hear it. I've never written a lyric to someone else's music, I don't think. But I'm okay but when we're sitting down, coming up with lyrics together, I'm not good at it, and my stuff is so personal anyway that it's really hard for me to want to sing a lot of things that other people write, because I don't really sing songs as a singer does. I got terrific support, almost a little too much, because when it came time to saying I'm leaving college, it was, what do you mean you're leaving college? You can't leave college, you've only gone for 1.5 years. I said, I know, I'm just going to take a little time off and pursue this. Well, you know, but you told me I was great. Well, for us. So, you know, it was great support, and it gave me a real sense of, well, narcissism for one. But when the chips were down, I think they didn't quite believe their own devotion. And then at the time, though, I had no idea. I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I was a prisoner. That was the thing that made me feel the best. But I never gave any thought as to how I was going to survive or make a living. I just figured I'd find a way to do it. My father had a brother, the only musician in the family, who was a professional musician, a great talent, great piano player, but had zero confidence. So he had these auditions with like Jimmy Dorsey or some heavy cats, and he wouldn't show up. He just said, no, they got the wrong guy, you know, and so he ended up being, you know, the Borscht Belt and one-nighters on cruise ships his whole life, and always living hand to mouth. So my father, the only comparison he had was Uncle Louie. So he said, you quit school now, you're going to be, you know, a runner on Wall Street at 70 years old. I said, well, be that as it may, I'm not enjoying this and I'm wasting money. So let's try it at least. And they were, to both their credit, yes, very supportive. You know, I loaded trucks for 8 months, which was interesting because my father was a factory worker, a shipping foreman, and I got this job in a factory in the shipping department to supplement the measly income I was making playing 6 sets a night in some crummy bars. And then I was enjoying it. I was getting built up, and I was really. And then they offered me the job of foreman, which is pretty much what he did his whole life and hated for 40-something years. And I called him up thinking he was going to be excited because this was a big pay jump. And I said, you know, they offered me the job of foreman. And he wasn't a very hands-on presence for me. He kept his opinions mostly to himself and let me find my way. But he actually said, I'll give you whatever you need. I'll help you out in any way I can. Get out now. Because he saw himself just getting stuck there for his life. And I was taken aback. I said, wow. I thought about it later. I thought it was a very generous thing to do.
Makes me look jumpy and scared, like I need a fix, like I get my kicks, touring with sticks, so I can get
I was a sideman for a while. I played with Jonathan Edwards, Livingston Taylor. I made pretty, decent money at the time being a sideman. And I used to open shows in the 80s for Jonathan, but I never, in retrospect, I really didn't like it. I thought I did, but I didn't, not like I do now. And then I fell into the studio scene, and more so TV commercials, and that was the golden handcuffs, some of us used to call it, because you got to work with the greatest players in the world, people I'd idolized, listened to for years on records, Steve Gadd, Tony Levin from Peter Gabriel's band, and King Crimson before that, just amazing players, all of them. Hugh McCracken, Spinoza, Will Lee. And you had your pick of these people because they'd always come and do a commercial. So here I was, writing charts and writing tunes for these guys and getting paid handsomely for it through the years. So I think people took a hit with doing commercials. It doesn't have the stigma anymore. But when I started out doing this, and you talk about commercials, like they furrowed their brows, but I never shied away from it. I'm proud of it, and I learned more than I could have ever learned in school or anywhere else. You're working around the best, and it has to rub off in certain ways. So that was a good living. It bought me the freedom to do this. I haven't been able to get an agent, and I think that's one of the few things that's directly a result of my age, because everything else is doable. The social media, the internet, it's really opened up a complete world for people starting out as late as I did. But the agencies, keeping you on the road in some semblance of order and reasonable, a well-planned tour, they're the ones that have not, and they've seen me, and they know the kind of response I've been getting, which is always good. I always get asked back. I'm told, you sell more CDs than any opening act we've ever had, and they constantly see it, and yet they won't make the plunge. And I think they look at their signings as a 5 to 7-year, you know, investment before they see a return, and they look at me and say, well, what are you going to be doing in 5 years? You know, I'm going to be doing what those people 5 years ago aren't doing anymore. You know, so it's a drag, and you know, I don't have a lot of good to say about the business in general. I think people are short-sighted, and there's an incredible shortage of mavericks these days. You know, it's all bottom line, and it's a drag, which is too bad. You know, people that I ended up idolizing, you know, Paul Simons and Randy Newmans, who knows, I think they'd walk into a record company and they'd get shooed out, you know. We might not ever have the music we have now if these people or this whole way of thinking was prevalent then. Sad. You know, I got lucky in the studio game, but I have a lot of friends that have been doing it for a long time, and you know, it's been a tough haul, and now more than ever, because you know, a recession back in the day, a depression brought, you know, in the 30s, entertainment thrived. But now everybody's got entertainment at their fingertips. Now they don't have to spend money to go out. They got things they're addicted to at home. They got video games. They got everything in their hands. To get people out now is a chore. And I think the recession has hurt. You know, it's become an extravagance, where in the 30s it was a necessity to make it bearable. I always told people I watched Willie Mays and Larry Bird do the most amazing, you know, amazingly difficult things and make it look effortless. And I always thought, that's whatever I choose to do, I want it to feel effort. I want to be so ingrained. I want it to be so ingrained. I want to be so comfortable with it that it would seem effortless. Something inside, I just didn't know how to get to it, and that was frustrating. I had a lot of my 20s and 30s were spent very, my palms would sweat all the time. I was always on edge. I was always trying to live up to what a self-perceived expectation. But you know, the older you get, physically it's a drag, but emotionally I think it gets better and better, you know? So I think I'm in the right place right now, where I need to be.
For me, the key strategic insights of Kenny White's success are: first, by doing his time working in the studios, he both developed his musical skills and built his business network. Next, he bankrolled his solo career from the proceeds of writing and producing commercials. Lastly, he's determined to break through the music system through all avenues, including social media. My next guest, Marco D'Ambrosio, has scored numerous award-winning films, documentaries, and live theater projects. Marco is also responsible for creating much of the dynamic sound and music heard in the acclaimed Lucasfilm THX trailers.
I was born in Prato, Italy, which is just outside of Florence, and lived there for the first 7 years of my life, and have gone back and forth, and was introduced to music at an early age. You know, my mom says that basically when I was born, church bells rang and I started to cry. So I knew music would make me cry from then on. Yeah, and then, you know, my father, you know, I have these great memory of, you know, these Italian festivals, mostly religious, but all kinds, you know, they just need an excuse to have a party, right? So my dad, you know, there would be these kind of both costumed and uncostumed processionals all the time, and my dad would always put me on his shoulder so I could hear the music. Grew up in Boston. I went to high school and, you know, we played music there, you know, the high school band, jazz band, concert band, you know, band geekdom. So I did that. And then I went to school in Hartford, Connecticut, Hart School of Music. I went to school there, and I actually was a double major. I studied music and engineering, acoustics and, you know, music. I was sort of not on the fence. I actually wanted to be an orchestral trumpet player. That's my main instrument. And then, you know, your parents say, you should always have something to fall back on, son. And so I decided to study engineering, and I'm glad I did. You know, sort of had this dual path going through school where I was, you know, practicing 4 hours a day in a small practice room, and then, you know, going to physics classes. So it was crazy at first, but the thing that sort of brought it all together was all this stuff, the technology, and ultimately as an art form, film scoring to me, this was something that sort of brought it all together. And moved here in 1989 to work for the Empire, as many of us have. I came out to work for Lucasfilm in '89 for THX, and that was also a culmination of both my production abilities and my engineering abilities. It was a good, you know, spot for me there. So I spent about 5 years working at the ranch on various projects, most through the THX division. And then, you know, music being my first passion, was doing music on the side and slowly building up my studio on my own, and just kind of keeping that going until there was enough work for me to sort of just keep doing it on my own. And I'm still, you know, I still go back and forth to the ranch and do projects there when that's in the budget, or, you know, when the project comes from the ranch is referred to me from them. So it's still a great relationship. A big part of what we do here are documentary projects. I've worked on a bunch of different projects here in the Bay Area with different filmmakers. One of the groups I've worked with is a group called Actual Films. They're here in San Francisco. They do some wonderful work. We've done a number of documentaries. One of them is called The Rape of Europa, which was released theatrically and toured the country for a number of years. And that was about the looting of art during World War II by the Nazis, and the whole kind of master plan of the Nazis to, you know, basically steal all the Western art treasures, and then subsequently Europe's attempt to try to save their art, you know, country by country. And the way I worked there with the directors was we talked about the film. They wanted me to work on it, and there wasn't anything even edited yet, and I just started thinking about the movie, and I had a good relationship with them. So I wrote a bunch of different themes, and sure enough, you know, they're kind of Wagnerian in style and all that stuff. And so I presented the themes. They actually, which is how I like to work, they actually wound up using these sketches, nothing, you know, just electronic, using synthesizers and samplers, sketches of my pieces when they were editing the movie. And so there was a good kind of collaboration from the beginning there. And basically, we developed the music as they were developing the film, and then the film was completely edited and locked, and all my sketches were in place. And for that, we actually had the luxury, and I loved doing this, of replacing all the electronic stuff with a real orchestra. So we actually went to Prague for a week and recorded a chamber orchestra. Sometimes they go off and they edit the film. They use what's called temp music, basically pick songs and pieces that are already existing and edit them in as a reference track, and then they come to a composer and saying, we need to replace this, what can you do? So that's certainly another way of working, and I've worked that way too. Our business is scoring, you know, from traditional scoring to electronic scoring, both using live instruments and electronic instruments. And we do, being in the Bay Area, we're sort of diverse in that we will also offer sound design services and post-production packages for anybody that's looking for one place to go. And when I say virtual is, depending on the project, it could be just a few of us. My wife is a music supervisor and handles licensing of soundtrack material other than what I do. So you want a Grateful Dead song, you can try to get it, or there might be a band out there that might be a good equivalent. And then we'll staff up or down based on if we are going to handle both editing and mixing and sound design and all that stuff. So it varies from those kinds of smaller projects where we'll do all-in-one packages to larger projects, feature-based things, things for theatrical release, where I will primarily be hired as the composer. And then I will also staff up for that, but mostly just for my support, whether it's engineering support, orchestration support, or copying, or things like that. Somebody said you can't wait for inspiration in this business, but at the same time, you sort of have to have this let go attitude or vibe, because if you're all tense and uptight, waiting, know you have to write a 6-minute cue that day, which, by the way, is impossible, or nearly impossible, then it's not going to happen. So you just have to sort of relax and let the answers come to you, and they do if you sort of just let go and allow things to speak to you. And it could be as simple as taking a nap or waking up the next morning and having an idea and letting that idea, fleshing it out during the day. And it's sort of just so there's sort of this relaxed intensity you have to have, where you're aware of what's coming to you or through you, and then you just act on it when it's there. But at the same time, you have to sort of develop the skills to be able to act on that and work pretty quickly, especially with deadlines. I just started this project. It's about a great Hawaiian epic canoe journey through the whole series of Hawaiian islands. I don't have the picture yet, but I've been talking to the director and the producer about it, and they asked me to sort of develop some ideas. And so one of the ideas that I thought, it's a very spiritual journey, and one of the ideas that I thought is actually incorporating some native and some oceanic sounds in the score. And so I decided to use sea conch shells as part of the music track. And so this is very early on. So this is one of the things to sort of wake up in the morning. I have an idea. Let's see where it goes. And so I just pulled up some sounds and to try to incorporate into the score. And the first is this sort of very washy ambient whirl sound. The next thing I wanted to do was add a little bit of a melody to that. And again, I'm trying to keep with the whole water aspect of it. And I actually used tuned water glasses that sound something like this. So those 4 notes you just heard is one of the themes that I'm working on. So I came up with combining those two together, and you have this. So the next thing I wanted to do is have a little bit of a percussion track. And there's all different kinds of percussion noises we can make. This is one of them. Kind of, there's a little bit of that tiki sound in there, but not too literal. Okay, so now let's put those all in the pool, and this is what we have. So now on top of that, I want to add a little bit of my my organic conch shell sound. So I'm kind of creating on the fly here, so you never know what's going to happen, but let's see what we got. So that's it. That's a little bit of music soup. The thing that I've always tried to do is make sure there's always a symbiosis between the music and the sound of a film. A lot of times they're kind of, because of the nature of post-production schedules today, you have these two camps that are both working simultaneously but aren't really communicating. So if I'm working on a score, I make sure I talk to the sound designers and editors, or if we're doing it ourselves, you know, we try to make sure that there's a symbiosis going on with all the different elements and not this, you know, sort of just sonic mass of stuff you have to weed through when you're mixing it. You know, I'm an artist that provides a service, and that's basically, you know, how I view myself. I am of service to a production. The things that I would like to see in the future, that we're starting to do in the future, is actually develop more of our own material, original material, not well, I guess you could say visual material as well, but where basically I'm starting to do more concert-based works, more production from the conceptual level, as opposed to coming in you know, on a film or an existing production. Being an artist or coming from an artistic base, you know, how do you like function in the real world? And that's always been the thing we're always trying to figure out, because we like to consider ourselves artists. We like to have artistic integrity, but we're not elitists and say, oh no, we're not going to do that, you know. So just finding that balance, you know. And I think a lot of creative people have that same problem, and you know, I'd say we do the best we can without trying to sell out.
I see the key strategic insights of Marco D'Ambrosio's success as, first, by balancing his musical talent with engineering studies, he was able to establish his unique professional niche. Next, keeping the business model flexible allows Marco to work on simple projects as well as hiring teams to do in-depth, specialized work as needed. Lastly, in developing his own musical projects, he'll be able to express his own creative ideas and better understand the needs of future clients. Today's guests hone their musical and business proficiency over years of practice and now continue to explore new ways to connect their creative expression with appreciative audiences. I hope that this episode has given you many good ideas for increasing your business with passion.